Hey guys, today I'm going to be trying out a new brand that I just saw at Walmart. I went and got so many things. The brand is called Pretty Smart. One of my Instagram followers told me that it was created by the founder of the Balm Cosmetics. And if these products are that same caliber but for under $10, I'm all over it. I got enough to do a full face, and this brand is made in the USA. It's vegan, cruelty-free. It's also talc-free, so those of you who are watching how much talc you're using are really gonna be happy with these. And in an article that I read, Marissa Shipman, who is the founder of not only the Balm, but also this brand, said that they own their own lab, and they do the manufacturing and filling the products and all of that. So it kind of reminds me a little bit of something like ColourPop, because that's a way that they're able to keep their costs down. They're not outsourcing it to any labs. They just own the whole production. So I was just super excited to try things from this line. And as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below as well. We're going to be doing a full face. You're getting a sneak peek of it right here. So let's go ahead and jump right in and get started. All right, guys, first up, I have a brow gel. This is called You've Got Brow Gel. So I don't know. I have it in the shade Deep Brown. This is what the packaging looks like. It doesn't really say much on here other than it says to just evenly coat your eyebrow hairs for fuller, gorgeous brows. They did have a couple of shades to pick from, and this looks a lot like something like Benefit's Gimme Brow or the Essence Make Me Brow. So let's just go ahead and try it. I really haven't had the best luck with tinted brow gels. I usually use clear and then just fill them in. But we'll see what this does. So color-wise, it actually seems to be a pretty decent match. It's not a super warm color, which is good. It might be slightly darker than my natural brow hair, but I think I would rather it be a little bit darker than too warm and orangey. So, I mean, as I'm brushing this through, it actually is kind of building up my brow. Like this all of a sudden looks a lot thicker than this side, but I do think it looks a little bit darker than I'm used to. So I don't quite know how I feel about that, but otherwise, it does seem to actually have decent hold, and it doesn't feel like, you know, one of those waxy gels that just kind of, your brows just sort of flop around and they don't do much. This actually is like sticking them straight up, which is great. It's actually pretty impressive. Like, look at the difference between one brow to the other. This was just brow gel, not even filling them in. I almost feel like I don't even need to fill them in. I think I'll clean it up a little, but otherwise, I don't think I need to do all that much. So this is kind of incredible. So let's just go ahead and do the other one and see what happens over here. I think this brow is maybe a little bit sparser than the other one, but even this one, wow, look at how crazy this is. Like I said, these do look a little messy. I feel like I might have to go grab just a clean spoolie and go through them a little bit, but I'm kind of speechless because I did not expect brows like this just from a brow gel. Like, this is crazy. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use the brush from my Too Faced Fluff and Hold brow wax and just kind of brush through this a little bit, kind of separate my brows out. They look a little bit kind of clumped together, and see if I can just make this a little bit more natural looking. I don't know if this is helping or making it worse, but I don't know. My brows don't normally look like this, so I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. You guys will have to let me know. But I'm just going to take the NYX Lift and Snatch pen and just fill in a couple of places that I feel like they're a little sparse and just kind of clean up the edges a little. So I'm just going along the bottom here, and then maybe I'll just draw a couple of hairs just right at the front to try to make it look less blocky. And then I'll just do the same thing to the other side. I'm kind of afraid to add too much at this point because I just feel like my brows are going to get out of control really fast. They already might be, honestly. I just wasn't expecting that much out of that brow gel. All right, I don't know, guys. This might be the biggest my brows have ever been, but it is what it is at this point. So let's move on to eyeshadow. So I got two of their quads. I think there are three altogether, but I just couldn't decide between these two because I thought they were both really pretty. So I got number 102 and 104. So 102 is kind of like a mauve-y color story. It has dusty rosy shades, which I just thought was so gorgeous. You have 3 mattes and 1 shimmer. And 104 is kind of along the same lines. You have a purple in here, which is a little bit different, but I found that all of their palettes run very neutral. There's no bright colors or anything like that. So I just want to quickly swatch these first and see what the formula's like, and then I'll put one of them on. So let's see. Ooh, the shimmer shade actually came out beautiful. Just putting my fingers in the shadow, they do feel a lot like the Balm's formula. So I'm really curious to see if she's actually doing the same thing. These are really nicely pigmented. They're very smooth and they remind me more of high-end shadows. So this is the first palette, 102. You can see that shimmer shade has a nice metallic sheen to it. It's not glitter. It's like a traditional metallic shimmer shade. It has a lot of pigment to it. It's very smooth, and the matte shades also just felt really smooth and really silky. So let me just swatch the other one quickly. I really don't know which one I'm going to wear today. It's so hard to decide. This one seems, yeah, definitely a little bit more rosy than the other one, and maybe a little bit cooler in tone as well. This one might be my favorite, although I do like them both. Like, look at this pink shimmer shade. Isn't that gorgeous? And all the other colors are really pretty as well. Like I said, I think this one is a little bit more rosy than 102. That one's just a little bit more neutral. So I think I am going to apply this one. I'm going to start with this shade over here. It's like the cool taupey shade. And I'm just going to start blending this into my crease. This is the A503 brush from BK Beauty. These are definitely a more pigmented shadow, and they have nice grip to the skin as well. They're not super powdery and they don't have dust kicking up everywhere. And I have noticed that with a lot of other talc-free eyeshadows, like the Doll Squad palettes from Doll 10. I love those too, and those also don't have a lot of kick up, and I think that's because talc tends to make shadows really silky. I mean, it gives them a nice feel and quality, but at the same time, it can also make them very powdery and really dusty. All right, so next I'm going to take the A502 brush, which is a smaller brush, and I'm going to dip it into the darker purple shade. And I'm just going to add this to the outer corner of my eye and kind of wing it out to the outer V. So far, I'm not having any issues with application. I feel like they're going on nicely pigmented, and they're also blending out easily. I'm not getting like patchiness. Honestly, I'm really glad to have a brand that has good eyeshadows at the drugstore, because I feel like a lot of the bigger brands at the drugstore are lacking when it comes to eyeshadows. L'Oreal hasn't come out with a new eyeshadow palette in forever. I feel like Maybelline's shadows aren't the greatest. Revlon, love a lot of their products, but their eyeshadows aren't great either. When it comes to more affordable brands, I've really just been using ColourPop or LA Girl. Wet n Wild is okay, but I don't love their new formula. And I also don't love the new Milani formula either. I used to love their shadows back in the day, and their newer formula just doesn't do it for me. It's so powdery. So I feel like we have a lack of options. So this is great. Like, if these shadows turn out to be good, that's awesome. And hopefully they can just continue to expand the range a little bit more. So I'm just going to skip right to the lid shade. I'm not going to use this warmer brown. I almost feel like it doesn't quite go with the palette. You have these three really cool tone colors and then this warmer brown that kind of doesn't make sense. I wish they had put in something else cool toned, but it is what it is. So I'm just gonna try to apply this without glitter glue. I usually do use glitter glue, but I want to see how this performs on its own. It seems like it has a nice amount of sheen to it. It's really soft, but it's also not popping quite as much as I like. So I think if you like a more satiny shadow, you might like these, but if you're looking for something more metallic or, you know, that has a lot more sheen, I don't know that you're gonna get it with this. It's weird because when I swatched it, it did seem to look really metallic, but now on my eyes, it's not really translating that way, and I'm not sure why. Maybe I'll try just wetting it with a little bit of setting spray and see if I can foil it, and maybe that'll make it pop a little more. I probably should have used the glitter glue, and if this works, then next time I will. So yeah, I feel like that did add a little bit more sheen. In some ways, I think I've gotten used to all of the glitter that's in eyeshadows these days. That's what's been trendy for a while now, and I feel like these smoother shadows, we're just seeing less and less of them. So in comparison, it doesn't like pop as much, especially on camera, but it does actually look really beautiful in person, and it looks really smoothing on my eyelids. Sometimes the glittery shadows can enhance texture, and as I get older, I'm starting to get more texture on my lids, so it's nice to have something that looks a little bit smoother. But overall, I think these shadows performed really, really well. I'm just gonna line my eyes with the AOA Studio liner that I got from Shop Miss A. Pretty Smart does have their own liquid liner, but it has a felt tip, which is the stiffer kind, and I prefer a brush tip. I hate felt tip liners, so I didn't end up buying that one. I figured I'll just use this. So I'm just gonna line my eyes quickly, and then I have two new mascaras to try. All right, so for mascara, I got two different versions. There are three altogether, but these are the two that I was the most interested in. So we have the Success Falsies mascara, and then this one is the Pretty Smart Drama black mascara. So I think this one's supposed to be kind of volumizing, and this one, I don't know, the brush looks so much like the Thrive Liquid Lash Extensions or the new e.l.f. tubing mascara as well. I thought maybe this would be a tubing formula, but it doesn't say anything about that on the packaging itself. All it says is live your best real lash life with this intensely black falsies mascara. So here's a look at the brush. It's the silicone type brush versus a regular mascara wand, and it's kind of like a tapered cone shape. So I figured we could apply this one to this eye, then we'll take a look at the other one. This is also the kind of brush that's bendy, like the Maybelline Sky High. So like when you go to put it back in the tube, it kind of wobbles back and forth like that. I know some people like that the brush kind of moves as you're applying it, and other people hate it. I'm kind of like in between. I don't really care. They don't bother me that much. I think I prefer a brush that doesn't wiggle as much, but I don't feel like I have issues with this either. So far, this formula is not too dry, but it's not too wet either. It's kind of somewhere in the middle. It's actually maybe a little on the drier side. I'm having trouble building it up to get that really false lash look. I don't quite know if this is supposed to be adding length or volume or both. It just said falsies, so normally when I see that it means both, but I don't know. I'm not really getting a lot out of this so far. All right, so that's what my lashes look like. I mean, I'm not super impressed with this right now. It was kind of hard to build up, and I don't feel like it made my lashes look huge like some of the other formulas do. So let's see if the other one is any better. Again, this is called this Pretty Smart Drama Black Mascara. This one seems to have a traditional mascara brush, and it just says brush on the drama with this intensely black mascara. So here's a look at the brush. It's a little bit wider than the other one, maybe not quite as long, and I could tell just pulling this out of the tube that it's a dry formula because the brush doesn't look like it has too much product on it. So let's see how this goes. Also, I'm not loving how big this brush is. I prefer a smaller mascara brush because I have hooded eyes, and sometimes these really big ones end up getting mascara on my lids, so I have to be a little bit more careful with it. But yeah, this is super dry. I feel like almost nothing is coming off the brush. If this wasn't a new beauty brand, I would almost think that this mascara had been sitting on the shelves for years and was just completely dried out. Like, that's basically how it's applying. It's hardly doing anything to my lashes at all. So overall, I'm really not super impressed with how the mascaras are, but that's because I love a really big false lash look. If you like a more natural look, these might be more your speed. I think I prefer the falsies one over the drama one, just because this was so dried out. The falsies one, I was able to build a little bit, just not as much as I normally like. So moving on to complexion, I have a primer and a foundation, and these tubes remind me a lot of the tinted moisturizer from the Balm, the Antidotes. It's basically the same packaging, just designed differently. So packaging wise, I feel like this brand is definitely kind of taking cues from that. So I got the Radiant Face Primer. I did try to get the pore smoothing one, but they were sold out, unfortunately. So this one is the only one that I ended up getting. And again, there's really not a description anywhere on the packaging. So I'm guessing this is just something that you put down to give your skin a little bit of a glow. It has a really light serum-like texture and kind of a champagne color. It actually looks really beautiful, very smooth, and no glitter. So I'm just gonna start applying this to my skin. It definitely is very radiant, but I love that there's no sparkle in here at all. It's more of like a pearly sort of a vibe. It also feels really nice. It feels like a hydrating skincare serum, and it's definitely giving tons of glow. I have a feeling this is going to show through pretty much any foundation that I would put on. Next up, we have the foundation. This is the Instant Chemistry Medium Coverage Foundation, and I got mine in the shade Light Cool. So this says that it's a super lightweight formula. It's supposed to blend seamlessly into your skin. It's also supposed to be an easy buildable formula, and this is the shade Light Cool. It has a little bit of a peachy undertone, which I've noticed a lot of cool tone shades are doing these days. It used to be that they would look more pink, and all of a sudden everybody's doing peach. So I don't know how well this is gonna match my skin. It looks kind of a little bit yellowy. So let's see. I'm just gonna blend it with the Sigma Soft Coverage brush. I will say the formula is very, very thin. It's just melting right into my skin easily. It's definitely not the type of foundation that's gonna sit on top and look makeup-y and heavy. It's just going straight into my skin. It doesn't seem to be clinging to dry patches at all. It's reminding me a little bit of the new e.l.f. Soft Glam foundation, which I loved. This one seems kind of similar and it has pretty decent coverage too. I'd say it's definitely a medium. All right, so there's just one side of my face compared to the other. I definitely think the color is not the perfect match for me, but it is toning down the redness that's in my skin a little bit. So I think it'll work out okay. So I'm just gonna quickly do the other side. I also noticed that that primer is definitely showing through. My skin looks really radiant. And I don't know how I feel about that because my skin is looking a little bit more textured because of that. And now I'm wondering what this foundation would look like without the primer. It probably would look really nice because this foundation doesn't seem to have much of a glow on its own. It's a really beautiful satin skin-like finish based on what I can tell on my hand. All right, so I definitely think this has really nice coverage. Let me just zoom you in and we'll take a closer look. My skin is looking a little bit textured, but again, I think that's because of the primer and not the foundation itself, because the back of my hand, which is normally very dry skin, looks so nice and smooth where the foundation was. And when I look at my face, it just looks a little bit more textured, but I think that's just because it's so glowy. So I'm gonna have to try this foundation again just on its own, but I think it's gonna be a super nice formula. I love how thin it is. It's almost like a serum. It just went right in and it didn't make my skin look dry at all. It's really, really nice. Next up for concealer, I have the Conceal and Appeal Concealer. So this comes in like 36 shades, which is an incredible range for drugstore. I forgot to mention the shade ranges in this line are so good. I got the shade Light Neutral, and on the website it says that it's silky smooth and utterly flawless, and also it's supposed to have a no makeup feel, and it said that it doesn't have that cake batter effect like a lot of other concealers have, so I'm guessing that means it doesn't look heavy or cakey. So here's just what that shade looks like in a swatch. Again, that's Light Neutral. And I'm not a fan of using too much concealer. I really just put a little tiny bit in areas where I have some discoloration. So the outer corner of my eye over here. Oh yeah, this is melting right in. It's not thick or heavy at all. I'm loving how easily this is just patting right in, and it looks totally invisible. It's really natural looking. I'm just gonna put a little bit around my nose area. I feel like the foundation did a good job at hiding the redness, but I find that foundation tends to wear off of my nose pretty easily, so I usually put some concealer just for some added insurance that it's not gonna go anywhere. All right, then I'm just gonna do the inner corner over here. I mean, this is so easy. It's just like tap, 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 and it blends right in. You can see it just brightens everything up. That's actually really nice. So unfortunately, I don't have the powder to show you. They do have powder, but I bought so many other things and I rarely use powder, so I didn't end up getting it. But I did get two bronzers. They have a liquid bronzer, like bronzing drops, and also a powder bronzer. So I kind of want to try on the powder bronzer today because the liquid bronzer is very glowy and I feel like I have enough glow going on. I almost kind of want to mattify a little bit. So I'm just going to show you these bronze drops really quickly, and they do come in two other shades. They have a rosy one and I think one that looks like a highlighter. So this looks really similar to other bronzing drops that we've seen. You can use it as a mixer, like mix it into your foundation. You can apply it on top as more of a liquid bronzer. It's actually a really pretty color, and like I said, it does have some illumination to it. So I'll be excited to play with this at some point. I just feel like I'm gonna have to do my makeup again without the glowy primer underneath. So that's just what the color looks like blended out. I think this is actually beautiful. It looks warm like a bronzer should be, but it has a little bit of a rosy undertone too, which I like. So I definitely want to play with that at some point, but I got the powder bronzer. This is talc free and it's in the shade Hermosa 2. So they actually have two different bronzers on the site. This was the lightest option, and then they had a deeper one as well that I just thought would be too deep for me. And I've always loved the Balm's bronzers because they always do a red undertone. And I feel like that's what looks the most natural on at least my skin tone. I feel like it kind of mimics that effect you get when you have a little bit too much sun. So here's the color swatched out. It definitely looks a bit lighter than it does in the pan, which I'm glad about because it did look a little bit dark when I first saw it, especially for something that's supposed to be the lightest shade. So I am gonna pick this up on the Profusion round powder brush and we'll see how this applies. I'm just gonna go right along the tops of my cheeks where the sun would naturally hit, a little bit on the bridge of my nose. This color is actually gorgeous and it's not muddy at all. It's blending on my skin really nicely. You know what it's kind of reminding me of? The RMS bronzer in Beach Walk Betty. I just did a video on RMS, so I still had that sitting here, and I just decided to swatch the two next to each other. And I think this is pretty close. This is the RMS in Beach Walk Betty right here, and this is the Pretty Smart bronzer. So the RMS is maybe just slightly more rosy and it has a little bit of a glow to it, whereas this one's more matte. But I think they're pretty similar in tone. Just gonna pop a little bit on my forehead. I feel like this color is just really complimentary. It's so pretty. All right, moving on to blush. I have their pressed powder blushes, and I got a bunch of these because if there's one thing that is my favorite product from the Balm, it's their blushes. They are so fantastic. They always come in the best colors. So when I found out this brand was from the creator of the Balm, I knew I had to get a bunch of their blushes, so I figured we'd just swatch all of these really quick first, and then I'll see which color I want to wear. So the first one is like a really beautiful cool tone pink, kind of like the Dior one that went viral. And this one has a matte finish. There's no glow or sparkle, but some of them actually do have that. And this one is like a bronze, and it does have a little bit of a glow to it. There's no sparkle or glitter, but it definitely has a sheen. It's not a flat matte. So this one is actually really gorgeous as well. All right, this next shade is also a matte. This one's Goddess, and it's a beautiful rosy mauve. I actually might wear this one today. This is so gorgeous. The next two shades that I have are more luminous. So this one is called a Tiny Squeeze, and this one really is almost like a blush lighter. It's very, very, very glowy. So if you have texture on your face, you may want to avoid this one if you don't want to accentuate that. But otherwise, I think the color is super gorgeous. And then this shade is actually similar. This one's called Crescendo. And again, it's a luminous peach. It has a lot of glow to it, like a blush lighter, but this one shifts to gold. So it's almost like a duochrome. It's really, really gorgeous as well. So for today, I think I'm definitely gonna wear the shade Goddess, that mauve shade, because I think it'll go the best with my eye look. So I'm gonna apply this with the BK Beauty 112 brush, and just pop this right on the apples of my cheek. This is so beautiful. It's also applying so smoothly. The formula definitely reminds me of the Balm. So if you like their blushes, I think you're gonna love these. I also really like how buildable these are too, because when I put my brush in the pan and then I go to put them on, it doesn't immediately give you clown cheeks. You can build up the layers if you want, or just leave it really subtle. So that is really pretty. I definitely love the blushes so far. I don't know about the glowy ones. I don't know if they're a little bit too glowy for me, but if you like a really shiny blush lighter, those colors are so nice. They also have liquid blushes, so I ended up grabbing 4 shades of these. I think there were more than this, but I didn't want to go too overboard. I'm really wondering how these are going to compare to something like the Rare Beauty liquid blushes or the e.l.f. ones. So I'm just going to go ahead and swatch these really fast. So these have a doe foot applicator, really similar to a lot of other liquid blushes. I'm just going to swatch all the colors. And I don't know, maybe I'll pop one on my cheeks. I'm really curious to see how these apply. I forgot that I ordered these. I was looking in the bag and thinking that they were lip products, but I forgot that they had these. All right, so the 4 shades that I got are Heart, Fortune, Inspire, and then Happy. I think Happy is actually a Rare Beauty color as well, but they do seem really pigmented, so I don't know. I feel like I should test one and just see what they look like on my cheeks. Oh my gosh, that hot pink one just stained my hand. I'm trying to take it off. It's not coming off. So maybe I'll just pop a little bit of the Happy shade on my cheek. That was the lightest shade. So let's just see how these apply. I know I'm putting it on top of powder, but hopefully it'll be fine. All right, so this color, I feel like it's not overly pigmented. It's actually applying really nicely. It's kind of a serum type texture. It's really lightweight and it's just blending in beautifully. I'm sorry if you can hear a lawnmower, by the way. The landscapers are here and they're right under the window. I really like this color a lot. I think the hot pink might be a little bit more pigmented. It seemed that way when I was swatching it, and also the fact that it's still on my hand and wouldn't come off. I'm actually a little bit scared of that color, but this one is really easy to use and it's super pretty. So anyway, Those are the liquid blushes. I also got a couple of different lip products. They do have a liquid lipstick that I didn't get just because I don't like liquid lipsticks. They're a little bit too drying for me usually, but they have a lip oil, a gloss, and a stain. So I figured I'll just try on all of the lip colors. That way we can see what they look like. Again, I didn't get them in every color that they come in. I just got a random sampling. So let's start with the lip oil because it's probably gonna be the thinnest in texture. So here's what the outer packaging looks like. And then the applicator is a really tiny doe foot. I'm so used to seeing all these really huge doe foot applicators these days. This is kind of going back to what they used to look like back in the day. So the 3 shades that I got were Awe, Trustworthy, and Wish. So I kind of tried to get like a cooler tone shade, a nude, and then one that was a little bit more peachy. So according to the website, it says that these are super thin, slick touch lip oil that has a hint of color and is super smooth and shiny, and it comes in 8 shades. So let's start with the peachy shade first. This is Wish. Oh yeah, these have a super thin formula. These are a true lip oil. A lot of formulas that come out these days that say they're a lip oil are actually more of a gloss. They're thicker. These are a super thin formula that actually feels like you're putting an oil on your lips. There's no stickiness at all, and they actually have quite a bit of pigmentation. So again, this is the color Wish. And then this is Trustworthy, which was the nude shade. And then this one is Awe, which is the cool tone pink shade. Next up, we have the Brilliant Lip Gloss. I got 2 colors. I think it comes in 6 shades altogether. And again, these have the smaller doe foot applicator, or I guess it's probably more like normal sized. And the 2 shades that I got were Almost Peony and Crescendo. Actually, I think one of the blushes was called Crescendo also. So the Crescendo one has tiny, tiny little micro glitters in the formula, and these are also unscented. I don't know if I mentioned before that the lip oils are also unscented. So these say that they have shea butter in the formula and are also supposed to be very thin, and yes, they absolutely are. They're slightly thicker than the lip oil, but not by much. These are definitely not a thicker, stickier gloss. They're very smooth and almost serum-like in texture. So this is the shade Crescendo. And then this one is Almost Peony. And then the third lip product that I got is a stain. Actually, these are a liquid lip and cheek stain, so you can use them on both. And I believe these come in only 3 colors, so I got 2 of them. I got the cool tone pink, and then I thought this brighter color looked like it might be fun for summer. So the applicator for these is the flat paddle style applicator, but it's also not oversized. It's definitely a little bit on the smaller side. And I don't mind that at all, to be honest, because I think sometimes when you have a huge applicator, it can go outside of your lip lines more easily, and the smaller applicators just help you with precision a little bit more. So I just want to quickly swatch these. I'm sure they're going to stain my hand. Ooh, they're kind of like a sheer stain. Like think of something like Benetint or something like that. Actually, come to think of it, the Balm has one as well. It's called Stainiac. It looks a lot like something like that. So up here we have Who's Hue, and then on the bottom is Tango. So like I said, these are kind of a little bit more of a translucent color. They're not super creamy. They're a little bit more of a watery stain. And yeah, when I go to wipe it off my hand, they're still there. So they definitely stain pretty quickly. I'm gonna use Tango first just because this is the lighter of the 2 shades. So hopefully I can get this off and then we can apply the pink one. I was thinking this was gonna be like a little bit of a deeper color, but it's actually really pretty. So this is Tango. And then we have Who's Hue. So even though this is pink in the tube, it looks red on my lips, very similar to something like Benetint or the Stainiac from the Balm. So to be honest, I'm a little bit disappointed. I was hoping for a pink stain this color, but it is what it is. All right, guys, so overall, I am actually very impressed with this line so far. I felt like the eyeshadow performed really nicely. The foundation and concealer were beautiful. I think the blushes are really nice. The bronzer, all of the lip products seem really good, especially if you like a thinner formula. My personal preference is toward the thicker, stickier lip glosses because I have dry lips and I also feel like they stay on a little bit better, but at the same time, I can definitely appreciate a thinner lip oil or lip gloss on occasion. So I think that they did these really, really well. I would say the biggest fail for me would have to be the mascaras. This was the one thing that I felt really, really disappointed in. As far as like the brow gel and the illuminating primer, they're okay. I'm still kind of thinking the brow gel is a little bit too overboard. It did really volumize my brows, but I almost feel like it was a little maybe too much. I feel like they're looking a little bolder than usual. So I don't know how much I love it yet. And as far as the illuminating primer, I felt like it was maybe slightly too glowy and it seemed to make all of my pores and texture come out. So those were the 3 products that I really wasn't over the moon excited about, but everything else seemed to perform really well. So for an under $10 line, I think this is super exciting. I'm excited to see where they go from here and what new products they introduce, especially since they seem interested in kind of following trendy products. I think it'll be really cool to see what they have coming up. So anyway, guys, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch this video. I truly appreciate it. And if you're new here and you enjoyed this, I hope you'll consider hitting the subscribe button. Thank you all so much. I hope you have a great day today and a great week ahead, and I will see you all in my next video. Take care. Bye.